Well, everyone, welcome back to the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. Today's episode is all about the proposed rule changes, and we'll see how many actually go through. But there's quite a bit of rule change requests that have been put through to the league, and they're talking about it over the next couple of weekends in Florida. I think that's where the committee is meeting, which must be nice. But we'll talk about that. We'll touch on some pain points. Lance has one. I have one of a rule that's being proposed, and we're thinking, really? This is obviously for a reason. We'll get into all that and some other rules that are being offered up. That's probably a good idea, like the changing the overtime rules to kind of sync up. That makes sense. We'll dive into all of that, but I think where we need to start, we need to give Lance his space, let him go over this idiotic rule change proposal from the Green Bay Packers, who are just sad that they got beat by a team who didn't need to use a certain play. But anyway, we'll get into that. Floor is yours, sir.
Uh, Andrew, I really don't even know. So I think this is in tandem, right? Because I think it
Hmm.
matters, and I think we have to bring them both up at the same time. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl. Could have
Hmm.
totally been content to say, "Listen, we don't need any rule changes. This is a beautiful year. Everything was great. Let's not even
Hmm.
worry about it." But no, they come in and bring a rule that could have potentially, like in the Rams game, harmed them, right? If they had changed up, because Philadelphia brings this rule proposal to switch up overtimes to where if you score a touchdown, the other team gets a chance to
Hmm.
score a touchdown, depending on some certain factors when we don't need to dig into
Right.
those. But to me, that is a rule of let's just improve the game. Let's make this
Hmm.
even more fun. And and I know this is that the Philadelphia's rule is looking at the regular season, but I'm just saying the merit of the process, right? Let's make it
Hmm.
more fun. Let's make it more even. Let's not have these dumb, gimmicky situations where someone wins because of a coin toss. Literally, one of the
Yep.
worst parts about the NFL is the coin toss
Hmm.
overtime aspect.
Let the players decide the game on the field, not luck. Absolutely.
And but so like that happens, right? You just said something. You said that let the talent, right? Let the players, let the flow decide things.
Yep.
Well, but then we flip over to Green Bay with the tush push rule, and it's the total opposite. Let's not let the players decide. Let's not let whoever is the more athletic physical team be the one
Hmm.
to win the game. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. This is what's ironic to me is people probably forget about this. When the Eagles went to Brazil and they played the Packers,
Hmm.
there was I think it was like 3rd and 1, maybe it was 2nd and 1, but it was towards the end of the game, and the Eagles decided to use a tush push to get into the end zone to steal it. Like that would have sealed the game. And what
Hmm.
happens? Jalen Hurts and Cam Jurgens have a fumble exchange, and it totally ruins the entire series. So they have to settle for a field goal, and they give the Packers a chance to be able to win. So the tush push didn't even ultimately ruin the game for the Packers. The Packers were
Hmm.
still in this thing, and
And then
now
Jordan
they're
Love gave it
bringing.
away.
Yeah, he sure did. He sure did. Yeah, that was a
He
rough,
tends to
rough.
do that. That's kind of my point I've been trying to lay out there for a while now, but that's neither here nor there.
Uh, I mean, I hear you, man. But here's the part that's like the most crazy thing to me is,
Hmm.
Green Bay wanted to come in and say, you know what, we're just tired of players pushing the person that has the football in general. Like the offense doesn't need to help the player that's got the ball.
Hmm.
Let's just totally take out this aspect
Not
because
just
I
the tush
can.
push, but the guy could be 20 downs down the field, 20 yards down the field, and the defense could be starting to tackle him. Then all of a sudden you see an O lineman fly in and push him for 2 more yards. They want that out of there as well.
I mean, but like that's not even what this rule says because what the rule like
Yep. It
is it going
states the
for.
legit tush push.
Right. It says to prohibit an offensive player from pushing a teammate who is lined up directly behind the snapper and receives the
Hmm.
snap immediately after the snap.
And my two
Wow.
cents, my initial 2 cents on this is how much really is a running back or a tight end pushing Jalen Hurts helping? Is it helping by a couple inches? Is it helping by a couple centimeters? Because by the time he's getting pushed from behind, he's usually already past the line of the game. because offensive line did their job. Jalen Hurts is so strong. He found the hole. He did his job. And then the guy behind him just gives one little push. How much more helpful is has that been? If that's out of there, if they no longer can push, then are they going to convert on a normal QB sneak 80%, 85% of what they would have with the guy behind them pushing? It's not going to change. They're still going to be dominant on those plays because that O line, other than losing Mekhi Becton, will hurt on that aspect, but still a dominant
You're right.
offensive line.
You're
Jalen
right.
Hurts, who
Yeah.
can squat like 1,000 million pounds, and they're so good at finding those little holes. How is someone behind pushing really going to affect it if they're not allowed to do that anymore? And the Eagles are smart. What they'll probably do is instead of someone behind him, they'll put someone in front of him pulling him. It doesn't say you can't pull him.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to say the way I would do it is I would just line up literally right next to him in the backfield. And then so that
Hmm.
way they can just all go forward together.
Hmm.
I don't know. Or,
It's 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 so dumb.
even if they don't push him, they can push the offensive lineman.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many different things
Hmm.
I just this is the part that's funny to me is like Mark Murphy, who went on the record saying this. I am not a fan of this play. There is no skill involved. That part in itself is dumb.
That's a
And it is
lie. It's so much technique that they have to practice over and over again. You have to have raw talent to be able to push at the right. There's so much skill involved in that. That's just dumb. That's a dumb take.
well, and like here's the other thing is there's a hilarious gif that's gone around on social media of Jordan Love attempting to do a QB sneak, but him and the center aren't on the same page, so he ends up doing this weird awkward fall. I don't even know what we want to call it, but I mean it's pretty sad. I mean it's
Yeah, yeah. It
I'm
reminds me of 2 years ago, Minnesota tried a tush push against the Bengals. And Minnesota's offensive line 2 years ago inside was weak sauce, as it were. They had just a bunch of weaklings up there, and they got no push. And I believe it was Nick Mullins had the ball, and because this is when Kirk got hurt, and they had I don't know why. So Kevin O'Connell's a great play caller, but why would you have Brandon Powell, the smallest human being on your team, do the pushing? That made
Mhm,
no sense. But he was pushing Nick Mullins, and we got like to the line of scrimmage or behind on 3rd and 1, or like 3rd and inches, and then we tried the exact same play on 4th and inches and turn the ball over on downs. So it takes skill. You have to be good at that play. Minnesota's not good at that play. Green Bay, like you were saying, not good at that play. Philadelphia, really good at that play. I think the Bills are pretty good as well. You just have to have that strong human being with the ball, and it doesn't even have to be the quarterback. It could be the running back, and then the quarterback pushes him. Doesn't matter. But someone who is very strong can get through those little gaps, and O-line that has that power to push. Just push 1 yard. That's all you need. And yeah, it takes so much more skill than what you just read. That's just dumb. I don't like that take. That hurt my feelings.
mhm. Well, it's just it's so silly. And the part that's like
Hmm.
the loser mentality is this. So after he says there's no skill involved, he says, and it is almost an automatic first down on plays of less than a yard.
Then figure out how to stop it.
But it
Figure it
just
out.
sounds so whiny. It sounds
Hmm.
so like
Yeah. Defenses get paid too. Figure out how you're going to stop it.
well, I mean,
Some
I'm just
people have
trying to
stopped
think
it
through
before.
here. What if like, defenses became really good at engage eight blitzes, right? They send eight players and it's like killing the quarterback, right? Like, hey, the quarterback is just getting ripped up on these plays. We have to make it so it could be no more than like six people blitzing at a time. Like people would say,
Hmm.
that's ridiculous. How about you just adjust and actually get the ball out in time?
Yep.
Because if there's eight people coming and you've got
Hmm.
five receivers running a route, someone should
Someone's
be
gonna be wide
open.
open. Hmm.
But this mindset is, well, that's too hard to try to figure out. Let's just take this play out of the game.
Hmm. It's weak. It's a weak mentality.
I just it's besides me, man. I cannot believe they're
Hmm.
honestly giving this a discussion. It's just
Hmm.
Or like, Patrick Mahomes with the side passes where he flips it forward. Are we going to say that those are
Oh,
illegal now?
that drives me nuts whenever a quarterback is literally have two defenders on them
Hmm.
going to the ground and the quarterback's allowed to just yeet, and that's called a forward pass. How is that not fair? Because that is impossible to stop.
Yeah.
He isn't hit the ground yet, and if it just does a little flick and it's forward-ish, that's not a fumble. No, that is not a pass. I'm sorry. Your arm has to go forward, not underneath. But that rule is not going to be changed. But
But
this
that's what,
is.
but like, that's the crazy thing is, so we're not talking about
Hmm.
that. I mean, we're
Yep,
not talking,
exactly.
there's just so many aspects of the game that could be made better. And instead, we're wasting our time
Hmm.
on,
And the thing that
yeah,
drives me nuts is there's this movement that's saying that the tush push has a huge factor in why the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. Did you see their defensive line? They're not doing any tush push up there. They're dominating up there. Did you see their secondary getting all those interceptions and turnovers and causing no receivers to be open? Do you see what Saquon Barkley did? That's no tush push. Did the tush push help some games? Sure. Would they maybe got one or two losses in the regular season without a push push? Possibly. But in the playoffs, that wasn't a huge factor. It was their defense and running game. That's
I,
also a take that drives me nuts. That's the reason why they won. No. They won because they were dominant in the trenches.
I think that maybe a turning point was when the Commanders got humiliated, you
Yeah,
know?
because they kept jumping over the line and it was on national
But I
TV.
mean,
Yeah.
like, what is the ref supposed to do? Like, you just give an infinite amount
Hmm.
of offsides?
No, and I
I
didn't know
mean,
that was a rule, but that's kind of an interesting rule that they could say, if you do it again, we will allow 6 points. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that. They have that power.
I, I mean, it's nice if you have someone that's not cooperating. I mean, you need to be able to do that. You need to be able
Hmm.
to. You
Hmm.
need to give referees some discretion. I mean, we've talked about this for like Patrick Mahomes. I talked about that time where he was willingly trying to draw that unnecessary roughness penalty. And if I was
Yep.
the ref, I would have thrown the flag and said unsportsmanlike
On
conduct.
homes. Yep. Hmm.
And I think that was an
Hmm.
opportunity missed. If I was the ref, I would have gladly thrown the flag and said, "Do that again." And I promise you that we will make sure that that counts towards your two for the game. Like I
Hmm.
would totally do that. I don't care.
Yep.
I just
The NBA changed that. Well, they tried to change that, but a flop no longer gets called, and it's sometimes going to get called by the offensive player. Sometimes. I mean, it's hard to truly tell, but Mahomes doesn't sell it very well.
no. That time it was deliberate, and you could tell
Yep.
if you see it. I mean, I talked to you
Hmm.
about the Jalen Carter one where Jalen Carter flopped against the Saints, and he got
Hmm.
called for unsportsmanlike
Hmm.
conduct. And you know what? The thing I love the most about Eagles fans is so when we lost to the Chiefs, the narrative I would say among Philly fans was, dude, they had the better team today. They had it. They were able to figure out our defense. They were able to move down the field. A little bit of luck, but it's on us. It's on us that we lost this game.
And there was a flag thrown toward the end of the game that was very questionable, but and it just sucks because Jalen Hurts had a 99% perfect game, other than that fumble that got scooped up for a score.
Yeah,
Just that one little thing. Everything else was flawless, but
right,
that thing, and that sunk in the back of his mind for the past 2 years. You know it did.
right. But like tying this back to the tush push scenario, the
Yeah.
Eagles took the whole process and said, it's on us. It's on us. Like
Hmm.
we're the reasons we're not going home with the victory. But like here are the Packers, and you're saying it's the tush push. Like I just don't get it. I
Hmm.
really don't
Yep.
understand how this could be your approach. Like if this is what you learned from the season,
Hmm.
then you are in store for
A
maybe I
world
should be
order.
thinking, Andrew, that this should be the fourth team in the NFC North. Because,
Hmm.
when Ben's going to come into Chicago, they're not going to have this mindset. They're going to have a winner's
Hmm.
mindset. Like it's just
Yep.
such a
Yep.
loser mentality. It's
I
so
I agree.
whiny,
I agree.
so beneath them.
There's no way that it's the fault of our $50 million quarterback. No, that's not the reason why we lost. No, it's got to be the tush push. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot more we could dig into. I think the part that's just frustrating is like, what door are you opening up by doing this?
Hmm.
is it now just going to be this thing where if a team is good enough at something, you just get rid of it? Is that
I
the
mean, if
way it's
that's the
going to
case, then
be?
we got to get rid of the forward pass,
I mean, or do we get rid of like
the
gang
screen
tackling? We
pass.
can't gang
Hmm.
tackle anymore because it's too
Yep.
likely to cause a concussion. You can only have one person engaged with an offensive player at a time. And if
Hmm.
there's more, then we'll throw a flag for unnecessary roughness. Like that would be a ridiculous flag. That wouldn't make any sense
Yep.
at all.
Or an offensive lineman is not allowed to engage with the defensive back because they're so much bigger and stronger.
That's actually a really, really funny because I could see that happening
Hmm.
where
Yep.
offensive lineman's down the field and just creaming a safety that wasn't
Just like Mekhi
expecting to
Becton
get
did
him.
last year. That was beautiful to see. I love seeing him run down the field and
Uh,
just laying it out, just laying a huge lane because everyone's on the ground, just probably unconscious because he just destroyed them. I'm gonna miss that for Eagles fans this year. I'm gonna miss
yeah,
that.
I'll miss it too, man. It's a bummer.
Hmm.
I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Mackay. I'm happy that he's
Yeah,
with the
he
Eagles.
got some good money. He got some good money. Now he gets to, take his talents to the hardball land, which is gonna be very interesting.
I like the move. I I
I do
uh
too.
I want to believe in the Chargers. I really do. I just
Hmm. It's not quite there
I'm
yet. Something seems
they're
to be off.
they're a little bit on a fraudler for me. I just
Yeah, I'm not all the way there yet, but I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying.
I guess it's like Justin Herbert. I just need to see a game where he balls out. That really
In the
matters.
playoffs. In the playoffs.
Well, I
Because
mean, even if it's a week 17, 18 game, I need to see it. I just don't feel like I've seen that yet. I've seen games where he'll do enough, but it's not like, wow, he really carried the team and put them in a spot
I'm
to win.
getting I'm getting some Kirk Cousins vibes from him,
Mm, mm.
where
I
he's getting
like
paid
that
a lot of
comparison.
money. He's getting paid a lot of
Hmm.
money. He's talented. He's a great leader, great in the locker room. But when the lights shine, sometimes he's just not there. And in the
Can
playoffs
can
come
we have
around,
a
he has
can we
been
have a side
awful.
tangent debate? This actually
Let's
brings up
do it.
this
Let's
is
do it.
this
I like
because this
it.
makes me think of something. So, there's been a lot of
Yes.
talk this week, people kind of like going off about like quarterback rankings, who's the best quarterback and yada yada
Mm.
yada. And
Mm.
people
Mm-hmm.
justifying that Jalen Hurts isn't that good. And that's not what I want to get into. But
Okay.
would you rather have a quarterback that tends to play best when the lights are brightest, but might not be as like phenomenal typically as like a Mahomes or Josh
Hmm.
Allen? Or would you want to have someone that has like the regular season success and then hopefully by the playoff time, it's like maybe a Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert situation where the team will
Mm.
hopefully make up for the rest. Like for you, what would you prefer?
Ooh, that honestly is fairly close. It would depend on my team. Can my team
Mm,
make the playoffs if my quarterback is kind of during the regular season, but can turn it on in the playoffs? Can my team make it that way? Or do we need that guy that lights it up during the regular season and hopefully we get a ball bounce our way in the playoffs because he's not quite shining the brightest? I would definitely prefer the other scenario to where my quarterback shines during those difficult situations. But if he is a little bit lackadaisical during the regular season, as it were, maybe not quite as good during just boring 12 o'clock games that aren't on
mm.
all the networks, can we win all those games? If my team depends on it. If my team around him is awesome, then oh yeah. Give me like the Jalen Hurts type where, during boring, meaningless games, he's just doing enough to win. But in the playoffs, he shines. Give me that, but it would depend on my team. That's what I would give that caveat. Because
Yeah,
if we
that's
can't make the
fair.
playoffs, if we can't make the
Mhm.
playoffs with him being average, then we need something different.
No, I think that that's fair, and I think that you've brought it up in a good way because like I think the Chiefs are set up where Mahomes is the cornerstone. Without
Yep.
Mahomes, you got nothing. The Eagles are set up
Hmm.
where Jalen Hurts is the capstone, where he is like the final
Yeah,
piece to make it all come
exactly.
together. And I,
Yep.
I
He
think that's
doesn't
a
have to
good
do
way to
much
phrase
in the
it.
regular season, but when the playoffs, when it's like a tight game, when both teams are close together in talent, hers is like, okay, let me give us this win now. You guys carried us regular season. Now it's my turn. And he has that mentality where he'll do
So, do you think? I promise this is my last tangent, Andrew. We can go back to rules, but
that.
do you think that McCarthy is in the capstone mindset then? Like, do you think that that's how KOC views him?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. Mm, I kind of want to say it's kind of a mix of both. I would say it's a game by game thing with him because he can be anything like from what we're seeing and hearing from inside the locker room practices
Mhm.
and all this stuff. He is a phenomenal leader and he will do whatever it takes to win. If he throws 5 passes and we win, he's thrilled. If he throws 40 passes and we win, he's thrilled. If it's the opposite, if we lose with those two, he's not thrilled and he wants to do better next time. I mean, I absolutely love the quote. So, side tangent on my part. Um, Whenever he was interviewed by, I think it was Kay Adams a couple days ago, and she asked, "So, have you been told? Like, how did you react when you were told your QB1?" He said, "Oh, no one told me yet, and I like that. I don't want to be told that. I want to continue to compete and earn that spot. I don't want it to be given to me." Him saying that just in a moment without being prepared for it,
Mhm.
that's what that dude is all about. I just love his attitude. He has that it factor and that mentality that you want out of a quarterback. It's just going to see if he can get that play to match it. I believe he can. Everyone in the locker room believes he can, but we don't know for a fact until we see it. And I believe we'll see it soon. But to your point, I do think he is probably closer to the Jalen Hurts side to where when the lights shine,
Mhm.
oh, it's my time. And when the lights aren't on, when he's not needed to show off, he might be a little bit more on the taking it easy kind of a game. But I don't think he's all the way there because he is so competitive. He lost one game in his college career, and there were some times when he had to win the game. People were saying, "Oh, he's coming from a running style offense. How is he going to throw the ball that well in a passing offense like KOC has?" Now, if you paid attention to some of those games where they played really good teams, their defense wasn't stopping them, their run game wasn't working very well, and on third down, he got the ball out, he scored touchdowns. He was phenomenal in Michigan, and I think he's going to be phenomenal again. I'm ready. I am ready because I mean he's got weapons everywhere. Offensive line is awesome now. Ooh, we're projected 8.5 wins. I'm ready for us to double that like we did with our 6.5 last year.
8.5, really? Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. They and some books have the Bears at 9.5 above us.
Mhm.
I don't know what people are seeing. I know it's the whole we haven't seen McCarthy thing yet, but you saw what you saw from Darnold last year was, or before that, was a bust. And you saw what KOC can do with him, getting him to
Mhm.
14. Now, I don't say we're gonna get 14 wins. That's crazy to think we're doing that again. But you saw what KOC can do with a bust. What
Mhm.
can he do with an unknown that has a ton of talent? That's the highest drafted QB in Minnesota Vikings history. And you're gonna give
Yeah.
us 8.5 with an improved roster. Probably, I'll give the Lions the best roster in NFC North, but the Vikings are number two. I'll give Lions the respect because they have a great team. They have the best roster in the North, but the Vikings are right there with them. And you're gonna give that team 8.5 wins? I mean, even if the quarterback is average, that's a 10 team win team right there. Even if the quarterback is average. But anyway, that's my side tangent. Now we can get back to the rules.
Yeah, like we could get back on the train now. But I did enjoy this capstone versus cornerstone discussion. So that was great.
Yeah, that's it's fascinating. It's fascinating. We can continue. We can do a full episode on just that because that
Mhm.
is fascinating. What teams can do with that and what the salary cap the way it is, and quarterbacks getting paid more than they should.
True. It's very, very true.
Hmm.
Well, Andrew, I think that we dug in quite a bit into the Eagles overtime rule. I don't know if there's more we want to talk about, but I feel like we covered that one. We covered
I think we're
the
good there. Yeah.
I think the tush push we have fully brotherly shoved that into the
Hmm.
what a stupid
Hmm.
rule discussion. I think we can move past that
Hmm.
one as well.
I agree. I agree. And then there's a couple little short ones I'll touch on. I briefly mentioned at the beginning of the episode about the kickoff rule being changed. So it sounds like that's probably going to go through where touchbacks are now going to go to the 35-yard line, which
Mhm.
I think that's good. It's going to cause more kickoffs to happen because last year everyone took a knee because the kicker just kicked it through the end zone. They're getting the ball on the 30. Who cares? If they're getting the ball on 35, they're only like, what, 30 yards from a field goal? Something like
Yeah.
that. So they're going to be wanting to keep that ball in play. And I think they were doing their numbers or measurement that the average return was only like 24 yards. So you're gaining 10 yards by keeping it in play compared to letting it go through the end zone. So we're going to see a lot of kickoffs this year, which is fun. It makes the game fun. You don't want to just see the ball go through the end zone, taking a knee every time. You want to see some action. So I think that's going to be helpful, but it is kind of ironic because of their concussion scares. They changed the rule initially to avoid concussions, and now they're going to say we want more kickoffs, which could cause more concussions. But, it makes more money. It's more fun. So I do like that rule. And then the role of the Eagles offered up with changing the overtime to sync up with each other. They touched on that a little bit. I think that just makes too much sense. Why is it different? That's just strange to me. Why is
Yeah.
regular season overtime different from playoff overtime? It should be the same. Um, because right now, before the rule gets looked at, overtime in the postseason, both teams get the ball, have a chance to score. Regular season, if you score a touchdown, you win. And the other team will just sit there on the sidelines thinking, well, I wish we had a shot. So that's just silly. And I think also I want to say they're looking at increasing it from 10 minutes to 15-minute overtime with an actual period. That I don't know if that's going to pass because that might be the NFLPA might say that's a bigger risk of
Oh
injury
yeah.
and all that
Hmm.
because that's a whole full of a quarter. And there are a decent amount of OT games in the regular season. Not a lot, but I would say probably every team gets one if you're looking at average. It's probably a fair
Probably.
guesstimation.
It's more than half.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
for sure, it's more than half. So it's not like
hmm
it's
And
nobody.
and if you're getting an extra 15 minutes, an extra quarter each regular season when you're already playing 17 games, they might try to push back and say we're keeping it at 10. Which, if they do keep it at 10, I've been hearing other podcast shows talk about this, that there is an interesting strategy that people can use because both teams get the opportunity to possess the ball. But if you're like the Eagles and you have a dominant offensive line, you get the ball first, you just run, milk that clock, have like a minute left, and you score a touchdown. Well, other teams got to throw some bombs to score a touchdown for the overtime time runs out. That's how it's going to be, and I think that's awesome. I think that's fun because it still gives them a chance, but
Hmm.
you had to stop them and you couldn't do it. You let the whole clock run out. But that's just neither here nor there. That's just a strategy that might be used. But I think that it should get changed to mirror each other, but I don't think that they're going to increase the time because that could raise some concerns about more possible injuries because you're already exhausted by the time you get to overtime. Then you play another quarter, someone's going to pull a hammy or something probably. That's probably their argument they'll have.
So do you know, Andrew? I don't know what it is as far as these proposals, because I know they
hmm
come through committees. But is it a take it or leave it, or can you adjust the rule? Does that make sense what I'm
Oh, that's a
asking?
good question.
And I
That's a
don't
good
know.
question.
I don't know
I
what
am
the
not sure
process is.
either. I would
Um,
guess
I
that
mean, I
it's
think
just a
you're
take it
right.
or leave it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
So, I mean, who knows? I mean, to me, I feel like the 15-minute thing is not as important. So, like to me,
Yeah.
if I was the Eagles, right, and someone came up to me and said, "Listen, we'll take your proposal, but cut out the 15
hmm
minutes," I
That's
wouldn't
fine.
have any heartburn
Yeah.
over that. That's fine. If we
hmm
can't win in 10 minutes, we don't deserve to win. That would be my
Yeah.
mindset.
hmm
If we're talking about like a 3-minute quarter or 4-minute quarter, that's definitely
That's
not
silly. Yeah. hmm
because the other team will just bleed the clock and then kick
Kick
a
a
field
field
goal.
goal. hmm
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you there. I think that that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe someday we'll get to the overtime rules that college football has because that is a ton of fun. But
Um,
there'll be arguments of more injuries that way because there's gonna be like 10 overtimes.
yeah. Can we get into the instant review thing real quick? The instant replay
Yeah, yeah, you go for it.
discussion.
Because I got one I really want to touch on that the Lions brought up. I'm gonna love to talk about that. But yeah, you get into the replay discussion.
I just first off, I'm happy. I'm happy that they're looking at the ability to like expand how much they can get involved, and if it's clear and
hmm
obvious that they could come in and turn something back over. The part that I'm just still frustrated about is it needs to be different. Like we really just need to
hmm
open it up completely. Like I just don't get it. I don't. No one that I've talked to a lot of my football friends. No one has told me
Hmm.
once where they've said, "Hey, we don't like the idea of where the NFL is not going to stop it and turn over the replay, but instead it'd be the coaches challenging it." Like, I just don't see
Hmm.
why this would be a big deal. If you gave coaches three challenges, right, increase it to three, give them a little bit more space to be able to make these
Hmm.
decisions, but really decide, like, man, is this penalty something I really want reviewed? Yes, I'm throwing the flag. And then you throw it in there.
Hmm.
Like, I don't understand why this has to be such a big thing where the NFL has to go in and review every single play. Like, I feel like the answer is open up
Yeah.
completely, let coaches be able to look at it, and let them decide if they want to burn their timeout or if they want to waste their
Hmm.
challenge. I, it kills me because like part of it's like if you stop the game too much, it can really hurt the momentum for whoever has the ball
Hmm.
and is driving. And I hate that. Or if the defense is doing
Hmm.
really, really good and then the instant replay comes in. If they continue to do it where it's like a streamlined review, I'm okay with it. Because if they
I think
do
that's
like
where
a
they're aiming towards. I think they're thinking there's gonna be someone that's gonna be do it quickly, but I do hear you. I do hear you.
I'm just worried that it's gonna be more nuanced than they think it's gonna be. And then like here's the other part that
Yeah.
I get frustrated about. Are you really gonna be devoted to this? Because I'm just thinking back to the pass interference challenges, right? That
Hmm.
happened after the Saints situation, which I think we
Hmm.
all know that the Saints got absolutely just ripped off in that whole sequence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it was never made right. Interesting side fact, by the way. So the Saints looked at suing the NFL over the situation, and they ultimately forwent it because they would have to reimburse fans their tickets, like the cost of the tickets, if they proved the NFL had like a malpractice situation right in the process. So to me, that
Interesting.
it's so funny
That's
that they're
interesting.
like, there's almost like this, like, ugh, we actually might win, but this would cost us
A
hundreds of
lot of money.
thousands of dollars. Never
Hmm.
mind, we're not going to do this.
Hmm.
So,
Because it's not like they're
congrats,
gonna get it.
NFL.
It's not like they're gonna get a win and get to go to the Super Bowl or anything. They're just gonna say, "Oh,
No,
sorry, we messed up. Now you guys got to pay 100 grand to your fans."
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
just anyway, I don't know. I just feel like they're kind of like
Yeah.
trying to. It's like the overtime thing, like the overtime instant replay. I feel like it's kind of similar. Like
Hmm.
we're going to give you the chance to be able to respond with another field goal. The team kicks a field goal. Okay, that's not enough. All right, we're going to give you a chance to respond to a touchdown
Hmm.
only in playoff overtime. And
Hmm.
like it just feel like they're like trying
Hmm.
to resist it as much as they can, and
I
it's
know
like
they're baby stepping it
we
when we're
know where
like,
this
"Come
is
on, just
going.
do it right. Just do it. Just
Yeah,
get it right. That's all we
we
want.
know
Get
where
it
it's
right."
going.
And you're just geek. Come on, come on now.
Yeah. So
I
anyway,
mean,
that
no,
that
no
that
one
was
has
my
more of a
thoughts on the
complaint than
replay.
Vikings fans because of the whole face mask debacle against the Rams, which the rule change that they're looking at changing. If a flag was thrown and they call it a face mask, it can get reviewed. Oh, actually, no, it wasn't a face mask, and it can get taken away. It can't be the opposite though. It's not going to add a flag, which I mean, the ref's job is insanely hard. I give them so much grace because they had to have to watch these players who are running like 40 miles an hour going down the field, going through traffic, and there's so much colliding, and they got to keep an eye on everything. They have a tough job. Help them out. There's so much technology now. Help them out. You need to be able to say, hey, we missed the call here. That's a flag. Or like you were saying, have the coaches see the replay. Oh, they missed that. You guys missed it. Let's get it right. We'll throw my challenge flag. Hey, that's actually a face mask in the end zone, not a safety. And then I'm not saying Minnesota wins that game, but we don't automatically lose going down 10 points at that moment. We have a chance to go tie it. I'm not saying we do, but if the play was called right, there's a shot. That's all we want. We just want to be right. If it's very obvious that a call was missed, happens, we know it happens. Let's just figure out a way to get it right. That's all we're asking.
Yeah, I'm with you. And because I tie back to the Eagles one, right, with that
Hmm.
whole illegal contact.
In
I
the Super
mean,
Bowl, yep.
was that really illegal contact? And
No, it wasn't. It was just AJ
uh,
Brown being bigger and stronger.
Anyway, it is what it is, man. And I know the NFL is not going to change for me. I'm just one guy, an Eagles fan that's like very adamant about this process, that's doing my
Mm-hmm.
best to gathering my dozens of friends to agree with me on it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is what it is. But I think
Yeah.
that you're probably ready to dig into a more frustrating penalty alteration.
Well, the way it is right now, it's fine. But the way it was proposed is you can look in between the lines and see why this was proposed by a certain team. So the proposed rule change from the Detroit Lions says that they want to change illegal contact and holding, defensive holding, not
Mhm.
pass interference, but illegal contact, like past 5 yards, he gets bumped, not supposed to do that, or they're holding the guy when the ball's in the air, not supposed to do that, but not pass interference, not when the ball's there and you just tackle the
Mhm.
guy. That's different. They're
Right.
wanting to change
Right.
that from being an automatic first down to just being like 5 yards or something like that. So on paper, if you think about it, okay, so if it's like a 3rd and 2, or no, how about like a 3rd and 6, and your guy just happens to pull the guy's jersey, not really affecting the play, but you pull the guy's jersey, which is illegal, and they throw holding, that's an automatic first down, even though it didn't really affect the play. So you can kind of see a little logic in it. And then say, for example, it's like 3rd and 23, and it's and they're trying to chunk it deep, and you kind of bump the guy, not letting him get on his route, but it's like 7 yards, you get illegal contact. Instead of it being a 5 yard penalty, automatic first down. It was 3rd and 27. There's no way they're converting that, but automatic first down. But if you think about it even deeper, why do the Lions suggest this? They were by far the most penalized team for illegal contact and defensive holding. They're very aggressive, and they're just wanting to try to get away with it a little bit more. And if this was proposed, the big problem would be on those 3rd and 27s. What are the Lions going to do if this was in play? They
Yeah.
would destroy the receivers at the line of scrimmage, gamble to see if they get that flag, because they're not always going to get that flag. The refs are going to miss them. They're going to be
Yeah.
holding, bumping them after 7, 8 yards. That way, the pass rush should get to the quarterback, because the quarterback has to wait a long time to get that ball out. And instead of being an automatic first down, just 5 yards. Oh, let's do it again. Let's rough up these receivers. Maybe the refs aren't going to see this one this time. And it's going to keep going until it's like 3rd and 3. Then they won't do it. And it's just going to slow the game down. It's going to be kind of boring. And it's going to kind of them gaming the system in a way if that rule got through and was proposed. So it's typical Lions thing to do, typical Dan Campbell. He probably actually was the one that said, "Hey, we need this rule change." It wasn't the owner, it
Mhm.
was Dan Campbell. That's probably what it was. Because he says, "We need to bite kneecaps on the offensive players too, not just the defensive players. We're going to bite
Mhm.
everyone's kneecaps. And we want this rule changed so we're allowed to." So
It's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it just generically, oh, it kind of makes sense. But if you dig a little deeper, you see the true idea in this, to where we got it on 3rd and 20. We're going to maul these receivers to see if these refs don't see it. And if they do see it, oh, well, it's 5 yards. Let's just do it again. Instead of, oh, we got caught, automatic first down. Let's not do that anymore. Yeah, this rule needs to stay the way it is. It is odd that if it's like someone gets held at like the 5 yard line and it didn't have anything to do with the play, that's automatic first down.
Mhm.
I don't know how that can be tweaked, but just the general thought of this rule, if it's changed, there's going to be so many problems next year. So many.
I mean, I can't disagree with you on that thought process. The part I'm just thinking about in my mind is you're talking about that scenario, right, of the 3rd and 27. There's two
Hmm.
aspects I think that matter in that situation. One is every play that you're taking is taking time off the clock. So to
Yeah,
me,
that's
if
a
you're
very good
in,
point.
an end of game situation and you make a scenario where it lasts, let's say 20 to 30 more seconds to just make up for that ground,
Hmm.
because you don't get that automatic first down, that's a
That's a
major
very good
victory.
point. That's a very
And
good
so
point.
to me,
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of Dan Lanning from Oregon with the Ohio State punt or a trick that he pulled. in the regular
Oh,
season,
yeah.
where he
Hmm.
intentionally put 12 people on the field because he's like, oops. And he basically got a free play for his defense, and
Hmm.
it took time off the clock. And the part I hate about that is is it is it legal? Yes. Yes, you're still
Hmm.
within the confines of the rules. Is it ethical? No. It's not
Right.
ethical. And that to me is just like it's a no-go for me. You know, like
Yep.
it but here's like a situation, right? This is definitely not an ethical proposal. It's not done
Yeah.
with an
It's
ethical
a
intent.
totally a Lions thing. They follow the rules, but they're not ethical. And I have
But
so
like,
much data to prove it. And because I see them play all the time, and they don't really follow that like unspoken rule of
mm,
let's not actually try to hurt the players. Let's play hard, play good defense, play physical, but let's
mhm,
not go for knees. Like he obviously says we're gonna bite their kneecaps, and then Kirby Joseph goes after two tight ends at back-to-back weeks, same exact play, goes right at the knee, doesn't try anything. You can see him lining up, going straight at this player's knee instead of trying to tackle him or maybe it was an accident. No, he was purposely going right at that kneecap, and both tight ends tore their ACL. TJ Hawkinson and Tyler Higbee, back-to-back weeks. It was totally an obvious launch toward their knees, and a play that didn't need to because both of them they were reaching high to grab the ball. They weren't going anywhere. You can just tackle them and they get catch the ball and go down. But no, he went right for their knee, and both times torn ACL. That is just the typical Lions. Is that illegal to do that? No, it's not illegal. But is it ethical? Just like your point proven, it's not.
for the record, we're not a Lions hater podcast, at least from the Eagles side of
No,
things.
no, no, no.
Maybe a little
I do
bit of
not hate the
maybe a little bit from
Lions.
Andrew.
I do not hate the Lions. I'm happy that they're actually successful the first time in like forever,
Mm,
but they are on that borderline of dirty sometimes, and it's not really good to see that. And Dan
mm.
Campbell is the ringleader of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't speak to too much of those things because I wasn't able to watch as
Hmm.
many Lions games this past year. I watched a few, um,
Hmm.
but I do get where you're coming from on those things. And here, the only thing I'm going to say on this rule, like the last part, is I'm going to
Yeah.
be furious if this rule passes and the tush push passes because
Mm.
you're speaking out of
Hmm.
both sides of
Hmm.
your mouth here. Like
Yep.
you cannot have it
Yep.
both ways. You
Yep.
cannot have it both ways where like, and that's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. I've got this feeling in my stomach. One part I forgot to mention is I didn't realize this was Mark Murphy, the president of the Green Bay Packers. It's his last year, and then he has to
Oh,
retire
okay.
because of the bylaws for the Packers. So this might be his like dying wish, which makes me a bit
Hmm.
nervous because he's going to be like, "You have to do this for me. This is my last year."
Hmm.
So I do want to switch though because there's one other rule I wanted to talk about that I
Yeah.
thought I don't know, it's a theory. But the Lions are looking at amending the current playoff seeding, and I feel like this
Yeah.
is a tactic. And stick with me here.
100%.
Is
100%. I already know
I
where you're
feel like
going.
it's a bargaining chip because there's other teams that want this, and so it's like here we've got this rule that we want to pass to help you guys to make it easier for you,
Hmm.
but what we want this
Hmm.
illegal contact rule to go away. So how
Hmm.
about we do a trade? We'll give you guys this playoff seating change, but you got to pass this illegal contact rule. I just feel like that's what's going on. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's my
Hmm.
feeling. I feel like this is a trade and bait because this doesn't help the Lions.
Right.
I guess they could argue that it almost didn't, but I think to most people it's fairly obvious who was the better team before going into the game. I think that there was
Hmm.
it just felt like that the momentum was in the Lions' favor, even with the injuries. This just seems like a
Hmm.
deeper play. I think they know that there's border teams that could really take advantage of this, and so they're like, "Listen, we'll work really hard to get this rule change to happen to help you with playoff seeding, but we
Hmm.
really want this penalty thing to go into effect. Do we
Hmm.
have your vote?" I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe you weren't going that way,
I
but
can
that's how
see
I'm seeing it.
that. I can see that. And there's also some other way I was looking at it, but this might be just a Vikings fan in me. But with the NFC North being so good, like all teams, maybe not the Packers as much, but all teams got better. I mean, I think DJ Reed is better than Carlton Davis for the Lions. So their defense got better. They got healthier. Everyone come back from injury. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be there. So the NFC North is stacked. And honestly, it could go multiple different ways. The Lions might not win the division, and that wouldn't be crazy to think. And if they pass this rule, if they don't win the division but still get like 10, 11 wins, they can have a high seed, like a 3 seed or a 4 seed. So there's also that little bit lower. I think what you're saying is definitely the highest priority, but this is kind of a under the radar, like, well, if we aren't the ones that, if we didn't beat the Vikings last year and we had to be the 5 seed, next year that wouldn't happen if we went to that same scenario. We'd be the 3 seed and still get a home game. I heard someone offer this up, which I think this could be good in a way, still keeping the division winner, having given them a benefit of being their division winner and still being very competitive and entertaining for all the divisions still. If the way it worked was like it still is, where the division winner gets their home playoff game, no matter if the other opponent has a higher win total. Like last year with, for example, Minnesota and LA. Minnesota had to travel to Arizona, which that was a different thing with the fires and everything. But Minnesota had like 4 more wins than LA, 3 more wins, something like that. And we had to go on the road because they won their division. What the thought was on this podcast I heard is that stays the same, but if Minnesota beats LA, they get the higher seed if they're going against a team that has lower wins than them in the second round. So the division winner still gets a home playoff game. You still get that. Congratulations on winning your division. But if you don't win that game, or if you're going up against a team with a better record than you the second round,
Hmm.
you don't
Hmm.
get that home game then. So I think that's kind of a meeting in both, kind of meet in the middle, best of
Yeah.
both worlds kind of situation.
Yeah.
Because if Minnesota won that game,
Hmm.
they probably, but they probably had to play the Eagles actually, wouldn't they,
Yeah.
last year?
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
let's just say that it wasn't the Eagles. Let's say it was the Buccaneers. Well, we would have had to travel to the Buccaneers because we're the 5 seed and they're the 3 seed. This way, they would have traveled to us. We would have got a home game out of that. So I think that's maybe a good way to kind of have a good compromise. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe next year that could be proposed because it does seem a little wrong that a team with 3 or 4 more wins than
Hmm.
you has to go to your stadium. If it's a 1 win thing, that's to wash to me. They're both basically the same record, but that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And in the end, for that game, it was not a home game for either team, and Minnesota looked like doo-doo anyway, so it didn't really matter. But but it just seems a little off that
Mhm.
team with that many more wins than team they're playing has to travel.
I could understand that. I guess like here's a couple of parts I'm looking at with this change, as far as like if it were to
Hmm.
happen, and what you're talking about, your scenario versus what they're saying, right? Which is
Right.
that in this scenario, it's no matter what, if the
It's
team
like the
that won the
NBA.
division has, a lower record,
Hmm.
I get it. But the part that I struggle with is what if a team had a 4 seed schedule, right? Like they were the fourth team from their division.
Hmm.
They played a crappy division in the AFC,
Hmm.
and versus this other team that had to go and play the toughest division in the NFC and the toughest division in the NFC. You know,
Hmm.
I think you got to weigh that because like, what if that team that had a weaker schedule was able to get more wins than the team that was actually better that was
It's
given
fair.
a tougher schedule?
Yeah.
And I feel like that the best solution is to just say if you don't have a winning record, you don't get a home playoff game. You win the division, you
Yeah.
go to the playoffs, but you are automatically slotted as most likely the lowest seed. I just think that
That's the fair thought. Yeah.
I don't know. To me, I
Because
feel
that
like
doesn't
that
happen that often. I think
no.
usually a team is like 9 wins, 10 wins, but there is the occasion 8 win team that makes that wins their division. So
Well,
yeah.
but let me throw out a scenario here. So the Buccaneers and the Falcons were going towards the end of the season, right?
Mhm.
And let's say they both went into the last week 8-8. Or let's say because now there's a 17 game record. No, yeah, let's say they go into the
It would
last
have been 8 and
week
8. Hmm.
8-8, right? And let's say that the Buccaneers would win the division no matter what if the Falcons lost. But now in this scenario, They have to
Yeah.
win.
Oh
And I
yeah.
feel like
Yeah, that's fair.
I would like that because it would force
Mm-hmm.
them to actually have to earn it. Like, I don't know. To me, it just, you don't win, you don't get this advantage if you don't have a winning record. Like,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I'm worried about is um, if you go too far down this hole, divisions will become meaningless and it'll become an NBA
Right.
product. And
Right. I agree.
I can't tell you, Andrew, the last time as a Jazz fan that I cared about a game against the
Uh-huh.
Nuggets. When was the last
Mm-hmm.
time I cared? Or like, it doesn't matter who we have in the same division. Nobody cares. But if I go back
Yep.
to the '90s, like we talked about it before we got on this podcast, but the Last Dance. I don't know if you remember this, but there's a couple of clips in the show
Mm-hmm.
that they talk about the importance of winning divisions because that's it
Mm-hmm.
still mattered back in the '90s. That went
Mm-hmm.
away. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, I understand this desire to keep up with parity, but as a Jazz fan, I can't tell you who my rivals are in the NBA. That is a
Mm-hmm.
problem. That is a absolute problem.
Yep.
And it can't just be, well, you know what? Your rival, if you're in the NBA, is the Golden State Warriors versus the Cavaliers. You're telling me my rival is a team in another conference that I only play
Mm-hmm.
a few times a year and maybe nine
Mm-hmm.
total because I get to the actual NBA finals to face each other. No, that doesn't work to me. That doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
the logic's not checking out here. And so
Yep.
to me, that's my concern about this setup is I
I agree.
totally understand the Vikings can get ripped off. I just feel like someone once told me, and I think it's a great quote, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And so
Hmm.
my question for this scenario
Hmm.
is are we seeking to put in the solution, but in actuality, it's going to make the product overall worse? That's my concern.
Hmm.
I just don't want to see the product to go down because
Yeah. Great point to go on top of that is that week 18 game last year. That Vikings Lions game last year was worth everything for both teams.
yeah,
If it was like the way that's proposed, that game would have been like, meh. If we
yeah, who
lose,
cares?
we're still the 3 seed. If we win with
Yeah.
the 1 seed, we get a bye. Cool. That'd be great. But if we lose, we get a 3 seed. We get a home game still. It's not the end of the world. Loser here has to go on the road. That's a problem.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Or
the
or here's
divisions would not matter anymore.
or here's another stipulation. Why not make it double digit win season?
Hmm.
Like there's no reason why you couldn't put that in the rules. If you could put that the team with the higher seed gets to put it in there, just say you have to have a double digit win season to secure your right to have a home game.
Yeah,
Or else you put yourself at risk to losing it to the highest wildcard team. Like
I just
that's a
thought of a
super
wild idea. A wild idea that
okay.
I don't know if this is a good idea or not. But what if they kind of went along the lines of college football and rankings, and depending on your strength of
Mm,
schedule and impressions of wins, where your divisions still matter, because if you win your division, that gives you a bump, because winning your conference in college football gives you a bump, especially if it's a tough conference. You win the SEC, you're almost automatically going to be in the playoff, without a doubt, if you win the SEC. Well, if you have a really good division, if you win your division, you have a great bump to get to that 1 or 2 seed. But if you don't, if you play in a weak division, you'll get 4 seed, maybe five, but it depends on who else is in there. I don't know. It could be interesting.
you better be careful, Andrew. The NFL is going to try to introduce like a bi-weekly show about power rankings, and it's going to turn into this really, really
I would
big
watch
deal.
that. I
Well,
would
one thing's
watch
for
that,
certain,
honestly.
I would trust the NFL rankers to be more fair than college.
Oh yeah, because the college football rankers aren't even anything to do with football. They're just anyway.
Yeah, that's another side tangent. But
Yeah.
I think that it's a small enough pool, where there's only 32 teams that you could
Hmm.
you could accurately rank most teams. I do trust
Yeah.
that process.
I
I
just don't trust some of these news outlets to do power rankings because their power rankings are ridiculously stupid.
see, but what if but that's my fear, right? Like, what if it's given to someone like ESPN and you're like,
Oh
I
boy.
don't know
No.
where this came from, but this is
No.
absolute trash.
No.
No,
Yeah, that is a problem if that happens. That is a good concern because that the possibility they could give it to those big shot news outlets instead of actual people that watch the game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. I do like the thought, but I think that at the end of the day, really what we're coming to an agreement here,
Hmm.
Andrew, is this isn't fully thinking through the consequences.
Right.
This just
Yeah.
feels like a quick, let's just solve this right now. And
Hmm.
I think it's more complex. I
Yeah.
I will tell this to I'll tell this to all my NBA friends, and I mean no disgrace on them. Like the ones that's like NBA
Hmm.
first, the product is flawed. It's flawed. And it's
Hmm.
not the amount of games, it's just the overall design. It just doesn't matter, like tanking is
Hmm.
heavily incentivized. Your
Oh, so much
divisions
so.
don't matter.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, you have no things like franchise tags or restricted free agents to be able to even out the playing
Hmm.
field for teams in smaller markets versus big markets. And I just feel like if I'm the NFL, I don't want to borrow any ideas from the NBA. I've already seen what your product
Hmm.
has turned into. I don't need that. We have a great product, and
Yep.
that's my worry.
Yeah, and years like last year are rare. Whenever there's a division that has three teams winning over 11 games or over. That is
Yeah.
rare. That happens to
Yeah.
me once every 6 years, once every 10 years. So it's not like this is going to happen again next year. Is there a chance? Possibly, but a high chance it's not.
Yeah.
So that last year is more of an anomaly.
I
It was
agree
a
with
lot of
you.
fun, very, very entertaining, very exciting, but that's not happening all the time. Usually
No.
it's one team has 11, 12 wins at the top, and there's like an 8 win, 7 win, 4 win. That's usually how divisions stack up.
Yep.
That second ranked team in that division is fighting for the wild card, while the one on top is like, yeah, we're just coasting. Maybe we'll get that bye week, maybe not.
Yeah.
Last year, that was just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even look at because you could say, well, the NFC North wasn't the only three-team division with the playoff teams. You could look at the AFC West, but the AFC West was vastly different because
Hmm.
uh, the Chiefs were so much farther out in front over the Broncos and Chargers. Yes,
Hmm.
they were a three-team or a three playoff team division, but you knew it was the
Yep.
Chiefs' world, and everyone else was just paying rent in it. So I'd say that's
Yep.
more of the common
And I
example of
don't
the
think it's
three
going to
playoff
happen
teams.
this year, though. I think there's going to be some competition for that number one seed in that division.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm
Hmm.
really excited, Andrew. Once we get through the draft and we've really
Yep.
seen how the dust settles and who goes
Hmm.
where, revisiting the power rankings and revisiting discussions of
Yes.
honest expectations is going to be exciting.
Hmm. Division by division, picking wins, picking division winners. That's going to be so much fun. So much
Agreed.
fun.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, I think that's it for me on the rule proposals. There's a couple of other small ones that could be kind of cool, but to me,
Yeah,
I think we dug into the real meat of
I
oh, you
think
know what?
so.
I've got one more thing for you. I
Okay.
didn't bring it up, and
Yes.
this goes back to the tush push. I promise we're not talking about the tush push. This is another aspect.
I know where you're going.
Um, Listen, um, I like Diana Rossini. I've followed
Hmm.
her in the content she produces, and I think she's done a great job. But
Yes.
she's on the verge of getting two strikes if this rumor
Hmm.
does not prove out the way that she's saying it is with the tush push gaining momentum. If her gaining momentum is you went from 4 votes to 8 votes, and that's how it turns out, consider her having two strikes. Um,
Hmm.
you can't pull this crap. And I know that people might say, well, this is what people do. For as much crap as Rappaport and Schefter get, they're pretty
Hmm.
good at being straightforward of, okay, maybe there's some momentum building, but let's not get over our skis here. Like this is not as big as we think it
Hmm.
is. Like
Hmm.
even when Schefter's talked about the whole tush push thing in the past, he's not been like, hey, this is imminent. It's going to happen. He's more just been
Right.
like, hey, I'm hearing disgruntlement. I'm hearing frustration. This might be something that gets revisited in the offseason. And that was pretty much how this is left. But when I read
Hmm.
Diana's stuff,
Hmm.
it's like Aaron Rodgers is about to potentially sign with the Vikings. The momentum's building. We're just waiting for the
Hmm.
Vikings to do this now, and
Hmm.
nothing. We'll get into the next episode about another quarterback that signed somewhere else and wasted some precious cap space for a team that's going
Hmm.
nowhere fast. But
Hmm.
tying it back to this discussion though, I'm a little surprised.
Yeah.
After this dud of reporting on Aaron Rodgers, she is doubling down on the tush push.
That
So,
she still hasn't given up on, by the way.
I mean, if she's right, she saves a ton of face. I mean, she does.
If
Like, it's
she's
like,
right, she gains face because she's the
yeah,
only one who has said this to that extreme and has stuck with it. And if she turns out to be right, round of applause for her. She's going to get a ton of credit. But the chance of that happening is like 0.5%.
yeah. Anyway, I'm disappointed, I guess I'll say.
I agree.
And it's nothing against her personally. It's just
Right.
like,
Usually she's great. Usually she's fantastic. But
I just feel
past
like it's
couple
a
months,
step down from what I'm used to.
hmm
So,
and for the Aaron Rodgers side of it, I mean, like you said with that tush push, gaining momentum, that could mean anything. Could mean 4-8, that could be 4-15. If it's 4-15, oh, okay. We got something going. But if it's used to be 4 votes, now it's 6 votes, now 7. Oh, it's gaining momentum. Well, yeah, I got 3 more votes, but it's nowhere near getting passed. So be quiet, please. And on the Aaron Rodgers side of things, it was just, oh, it was so dumb because Vikings fans were afraid because it was actually someone reporting, and Diana Orsini is a really trustworthy reporter. She's great. And when she was saying it's that the Vikings are strongly considering Aaron Rodgers, and then I think it was coworker Silver was saying it's a 50-50 shot that he's going there. I'm thinking, okay, I gotta root for this really poor human for 17 weeks. Okay, but it was odd that she was the only one, or I should say the Athletic was the only one going that hard in the paint when everyone else was saying there have been internal discussions. And that's as far as they said, which makes total sense because you're going to talk about every option. Aaron Rodgers is available. Hey, do we want to talk about him? Sure, let's talk about him. And they have a conversation and they move on. And difference between that and strongly considering. Conversation, strongly considering. Huge gap. And they were most likely here, not there. Now, is there a chance Aaron Rodgers still, as long as he's not signed, there's a chance that he could still be available from Minnesota if a bunch of horrible circumstances happen and Minnesota Vikings fans still have that fear in the back of their mind because of Teddy Bridgewater whenever he was his third year, I think, or second year, something like that.
mhm.
Simple practice, not even touched, tears everything in his knee, completely shatters it, and we have no idea what we're going to do now. So we go look for, I think that's the year we traded for Sam Bradford from you
Yeah,
guys, actually.
yep.
And he played well for us for a little bit until he got hurt, but that's a different story. Um, that's what Vikings fans are fearing with this wonderful golden boy, JJ McCarthy, we have is, well, he already got hurt last year. Is he going to get hurt again? Well, first of all, meniscus tears are common. They're fine. Those are completely repaired, no issues. But I understand Vikings fans are always used to horrible things happening, and that's the only chance Aaron Rodgers has. The only
Yeah,
chance. He needs to either retire, number one option, what he should do, or accept that one offer he has from the Steelers, and then end this charade. Because I can guarantee you, if he does what he's probably going to do, which is wait this out, wait this out, wait this out, not sign with anybody, he's still going to be talked about to Minnesota until he's on a different team. Even if Minnesota gets their backup quarterback after the draft, which I think they're going to do, then they're going to get Joe Flacco after the draft. There's already been conversations. And we don't want to mess up our fourth round comp pick. So we're probably like, hey, Joe, you know, May 1st, something like that, we'll give you a call. Just kind of chill out, stay in good shape. We'll get you over here. Um, that's probably what's going to happen. But until Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers or retires, or even if he just retires, there's still going to be talk. Because anytime like McCarthy throws a bad pass in a game, oh, then they call up Aaron Rodgers? Please, please, Aaron, sign with the Steelers so this can be done. Please. Okay, my tangent's over.
I agree with you. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about on the Diana Orsini Vikings / Eagles front. So yeah,
Okay. Okay, well, I don't have any other rules to talk about. You got anything else you want to touch on?
No, that was it, man. So I think that was good. A lot of good discussion. I really liked that we came up with better rules in the span of 60 minutes, Andrew, than
Boom.
some of these people came up with in a year.
Hey, NFL, give
So
us a call. We'll help you out. We'll set these rules up. We don't want any compensation. We just want the game to be better. So just give
I
us a
agree.
call. We'll tell you how to fix it. That's
Simple. I like it.
it. Well, all right, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us in this episode. Our next episode, we'll dive into the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins stuff. We haven't touched on that yet, and we have some things to say about that. And also, Lance mentioned that he wants to talk about a quarterback. I think I have some speculation I want to touch on. It'll be a really fun episode. We will see you guys next time.
We'll see you guys soon.